Hello! Welcome back to Joy of the Garden. I am Joy. I'm coming to you from my front garden today, which we have not actually looked at together before, but I do want to show you, in the name of transparency, my biggest garden fail of 2025 thus far. Alright, here it is, you guys. My biggest garden fail of 2025 thus far. This pathetic wilty family of plants is supposed to be my garlic for 2025. You can see over here it looks absolutely atrocious. And over here there are some that look okay-ish, still bad, but okay-ish, and others that didn't even take off. I take full responsibility for this smattering of garlic because I think I did a couple major things wrong. So the first thing that I already know went poorly is timing. So your garlic, if it's this is supposed to be my fall garlic, except I planted it out so late, or summer garlic, I'm sorry, but I planted it out so late that it's going to become my fall garlic. Ideally, I should have planted it out by Halloween. It should have been in the ground. Instead, mine went into the ground in December, which means that it'll come out in October, so certainly not summer anymore. That's the first thing I did wrong. Just less than ideal growing temperatures. This is hardneck garlic, which does need a cold period, which we did have a pretty cold winter here in Atlanta. Actually, we had snow twice, which was particularly awful, but good for my garlic, I suppose. And so that part maybe I could have overcome. I think where I really went wrong was just where I planted the bed. So garlic, as well as other root growing vegetables, really needs as much sun as you can possibly give it. The front of my house is the south facing side. Okay, sorry about that. My neighbor has decided that now is the time to do their lawn work. And maybe they're not done. So this is the south facing side of my house, but it unfortunately is blocked by my front porch, and so this side will get morning sun and be completely blocked almost from afternoon sun, and the other side will get only afternoon sun, which is just not sufficient, I think. Now, understanding that there's a big risk that I just won't have much of a garlic crop this year just because of how these plants are looking, I decided to give it a last-ditch effort and put some compost down to try and feed the plants a little bit, just in case they're looking wilty because they're actually a little bit hungry. Garlic is one of the heavy feeder plants, and I did put some compost down before I planted out my seed garlic, but I honestly don't spend quite as much time in the front yard cultivating the beds and stuff like that, so it's still possible that maybe it just didn't get fertilized enough or it didn't get quite enough organic material. So I'm going to put one last ditch effort into these garlic beds and see if we can get some kind of a respectable crop out of them. I'm using the Black Cow brand of compost because that's what I've always used. I do have compost coming from my actual garden itself, from garden scraps and things like that, but it just takes quite a while. And what I did have, I already put in the bottom of my new garden bed to help try and fill it. So for now, I'm using this Black Cow compost, and then hopefully later in the season, or maybe next season, I'll have my own compost that I'll be able to use and recycle back into the soil. Well, I'm hopeful that you can actually hear me because every single one of my neighbors has decided that today is the day for their lawn care. But I do want to show you guys a couple other things, and also I'm going to do something exciting today that I didn't do at the beginning of last season that I wish that I did. We have some pretty big things going on in terms of fruit. We've been growing a lot of plants, but I think based on looking around the place, I think the fruit is coming. the most obvious example is over here. It turns out that my mystery pepper plant is actually a jalapeno plant. So I have a little, there's what, 4 of these little tiny, maybe 5 of these little tiny peppers on there. I'm obviously gonna let those grow up and get bigger, but that's pretty exciting. And then beyond that, even these other pepper plants still have flowers on them. So that means that, assuming my pollinators cooperate with me, I'll have little peppers on those coming up soon. And in the biggest news of all, that to me just screams it's definitely almost summertime, the tomatoes even have flowers on there. So it's almost tomato season, guys. How exciting. My summer squash has also gotten the memo. There's the first little male flower popping up there, which is exciting considering that I didn't grow any squash at all last year, and also terrifying because I'm almost certain that we get squash vine borers here in Atlanta, which is, for at least from what I'm told, the bane of our existence. So we will see. But you can tell this is a male flower because there's no fruit on the bottom. It's just a flower. So there will hopefully next be a flower that has a small tiny fruit on the end, and if it gets pollinated, it'll grow into a big beautiful squash. I was able to get this tiny little ripe strawberry. I've had a couple of these. They've been delicious, but I'm gonna snack on one while I'm out here. Ooh, that one's extremely good. The last 2 were maybe a little bit tart. Maybe I picked them a little bit too early because I was excited, but this one, perfect. Honestly, perfect. Our next order of business, which is honestly not the sexiest or most exciting part of gardening, but, well, some might say that it is actually, but it's not as visually appealing, but almost more important, I would say, that I didn't do last year is I've gotten these soil test kits. And the reason for that is because sometimes it's easy to forget that everything that we do, everything that we grow, everything that we eat, and even more importantly, the nutritional content of everything that we eat is based entirely on the health of the soil that it grows in. And so I assumed that my soil was okay because I purchased it and it seemed like it had a pretty good nutrition profile, but I've seen too many people that had the same assumption, and that wasn't the case. And so if there's something that I need to be doing specifically to amend my soil, I would like to know now, early in the season, rather than waiting until I have a less than stellar season and then wondering why that happened. So I've actually done one soil test before, but never on my raised beds. I did a soil test on my native soil, just to prove basically that it is the same soil as what's on Mars. It seems there's almost nothing of use in it. The Georgia clay is particularly horrible. So I got this, I'm doing the Redmond test kit. It has all of these macronutrients, micronutrients, so that I can kind of tailor my amendments this year a little bit better. So I'm going to take one, I have 2 of them. I'm going to take one test from the front bed and one test from the back bed. Okay, so I have my sample of a few different spots in the bed. I took it from over here where the watermelon will eventually grow, or eventually ramble, I should say. I took it from next to the potatoes and next to the beans. And so they said to mix it up a little bit. All right, that's about as mixed as I'm gonna get, I think. Okay. using the scoop, collect 1 scoop and add it to the jar. Okay, so it comes with this handy scoop, 1 level scoop. It's hard to get soil level, but try to get the straw out of here. Okay, that looks like it's probably good enough. And then add it to the jar. And so this jar has some type of capsule and water. I can't really show you because it's kind of full actually. But it says do not dump out the water like 15 times. So I won't do that. Okay. Add it to the jar and tightly secure the lid. It doesn't say to shake it or anything, so I won't. Okay, tightly secure the lid. There it is. Now I will do that again on the back bed. Okay, so now I have my sample from the back bed as well. So I'm going to go inside. It says to register your kit before you send it, which makes sense that I know what I'm looking at. Huge carpenter beat. And then I will send it off probably tomorrow, and hopefully it will say that all of my amendments are perfect and the macro and micronutrients are beautiful and my plants are going to be huge, but I'd rather know now than later, so that's what we'll do. Alright you guys, that's going to be it for me today. I got a little bit of work done, not a huge amount of work done. I did get the new tomato cages. I'll put those in probably tomorrow, the bigger sized ones that will actually fit the plants that I have, but I did not bring those out with me, so I'll do that tomorrow. Otherwise, I'm going to harvest just some spinach and lettuce and for a smoothie and salad for dinner. I appreciate you guys coming along on this day of basically just chores, nothing super fun or interesting, nothing like a big harvest day, no huge juicy tomatoes, but equally as important to set up everything for success so that I can have those days later on in the season. I hope you guys are also doing all the work in your garden so that you can have an abundant summer as well. And the next time I see you, maybe we'll do some more garden tours, but I also have purchased a couple new things in the vein of food preservation. I mentioned early on that I was looking to not just grow food this year, but also preserve it and continue eating it so that I can have all of this nutritious food that I work so hard for a little bit longer and not have so much of it go bad. So I did get a couple different things that we can go over whenever they arrive in the mail, but I will see you next time, and thanks for coming along.